Hello, my lovelies. I wanted to make a video about this post that Gypsy Rose Manson made on one of her social media platforms a couple days ago, and it's discussing her newest podcast interview. Then I'm going to go eat some Doritos with bean dip and watch the newest season of Kitchen Nightmares. I have been uploading prison calls today, so make sure you go show those some love. Check those out. Now, people were commenting under this post asking about the paywall. Why is only one episode free if you're already paying for Spotify that included podcasts? Is the full series coming out later? At one point, even Audible have only one episode available. Would this change? Gypsy replies, I don't know any details of how he releases the episodes. I was just part of the interview process. Yeah, not surprising. And do we honestly think that Gypsy's going to promote anything that is not in her favor? Why hasn't this been deleted yet like she did to all the other people? And the post reads, I was recently interviewed by journalist Jay from the podcast for a series exploring something that has become a phenomenon of its own, the fascination and obsession surrounding my life, my story, and my case. If you spent any amount of time scrolling through TT, chances are you've come across what many people online call the Gypverse, an entire online community centered around discussing me. Some people are incredibly supportive, while others are strongly critical and have spent years analyzing, questioning, and debating nearly every aspect of my story. What makes this podcast different to that? Jay didn't only speak with me or the people who support me. He interviewed voices from both sides of that divide, supporters and critics alike, to examine not only my story, but the online culture that has developed around it. I agreed to be interviewed knowing that this would not necessarily be a one-sided or flattering conversation. There are different perspectives, difficult questions, disagreements, and opinions that I may or may not personally share. But that is also what makes this series interesting. It takes a deep dive into both sides of the conversation to explore how one story became the center of such an intense online world, and why years later, people remain so deeply invested in everything surrounding it. I'm getting notes of ChatGPT. How about you? I think this is podcast dude and Gypsy's poor attempt to try to get views from both sides, because she ends the post with, whether you've supported me, questioned me, or simply watched all of this unfold from the outside, I think this will be an interesting listen. So the only other comment that got a reply from Gypsy said, I heard about the podcast. Isn't it about others pretending to be someone they aren't, like con artists and snake oil salesmen? Gypsy responds, yes, that is the premise around his general podcast. However, this series focuses mainly on a community of individuals that share one opinion or the other about my life in an ever-growing digital world. Well, that's funny, because he said this is not about a fandom gone wrong. I don't think she has any clue what this podcast's about, but what do you think?